you know?
Do you wonder sometimes?
When I was a welder in the shipyards, I came from Partick.
You did not come from Partick, John. That was Billy Connolly.
Billy Connolly.
Welcome, folks. Hello and welcome along to Movie News here at MBE. As you can hear in the background, I'm maybe on split screen in a little second. John C. Walsh, co-hosting as always. We'd just like to thank you once again for joining us here on YouTube and, of course, our Twitch stream as well. We're going to get right into this, John. The thumbnail says it all.
Yes, it does.
That's what I'm going to say.
Ever seen a all-female Avengers movie, Steve?
Exactly. Letitia Wright is confident that an all-female Avengers movie will happen, and I think she thinks it's going to happen very soon as well. But I'm just going to take a little grab here from screenrant.com. Give them the full title for once. It's Letitia Wright is confident that Marvel Studios will make an all-female Avengers movie in the future for the first several years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One of the common knocks on the popular franchise was its lack of female superheroes. Despite Black Widow's promise, I will let you in, John, don't worry. The first female solo film didn't arrive until Captain Marvel in 2019. Several female superheroes were introduced during the Infinity Saga, though, and they all came together in a memorable Avengers Endgame scene, which we'll talk about as well. The short team-up of nearly every major female MCU superhero reignited discussions about an all-female team-up movie happening in the future. Stars like Scarlett Johansson and Brie Larson have already been pushing for such an event, but Marvel Studios has yet to officially announce an all-female Avengers movie is coming. This might just be because Marvel hasn't announced Avengers 5 yet, but that hasn't stopped fans from wondering if it will happen. With so much interest in the potential film, one of the likely stars of it is confident the movie will be made. John, just before I let you in, because I know you've got a few things you want to get off your chest.
Yes. Not all bad.
I think Marvel, the MCU, is a whole lot different to the DCU, and with the way they did the what's it called, the one with Harley Quinn,
the Birds of Prey.
It's separate,
the fabulous emancipation of
separate
Harley
entities
Quinn.
that don't have to connect anywhere. Where the MCU's formula has always been built around everything happening in the same sort of space and continuing on and having links, etc. And to an extent that is the case with the DCU, but not as in depth as the MCU. But John, we'll talk about first this comment it does say about for the first several years of the MCU, one of the common knocks on the popular franchise was its lack of female superheroes. What's your take on that? Because I did hear you react to me saying that. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're building the blocks from the very bottom, you don't, this is just my opinion, you don't go in with the likes of a Captain Marvel or anything like that. You get in with an established one, but then again they didn't. Well, they did if you're a comic book, a massive comic book fan, but an average fan wouldn't regard Iron Man as a sort of standout. But there's other things taken into a factor as well. Spider-Man wasn't Marvel's to use. The Incredible Hulk wasn't Marvel's to use it either, and I would put those two as probably the bigger characters. But there's a lot of circumstances as well. But what's your take on that?
Steve, I think they've been harsh on Kevin Feige and Marvel Disney by suggesting the first, what was it? How long was it until we got her? Well, we had Black Widow right at the start, so an absolute nonsense. She was in the first Avengers movie in 2012.
She was in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, she popped up at then, so she's been there for a good while, Black Widow, and she was there at the very start of the Infinity Saga, so I don't agree. And as you did rightly say, I'm looking at female MCU characters. Wanda Maximoff, she came in Age of Ultron. Not a huge character by any means. Black Widow was there. Gamora came in 2014 with Guardians of the Galaxy. Carol Danvers came later on. Again, not the be-all and end-all on the Marvel side of things. It's very much Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, Doctor Strange.
Exactly.
That is the main players. And they introduced Iron Man right away. They introduced Captain America. And then we got Thor. So they're the main players. And then Hulk popped in the actual Avengers. So they've done the right thing. They introduced the powerful male superheroes who really... They held the comic books on their shoulders throughout the course of the last 50, 60 years. Spider-Man as well, they didn't have the rights, as you did say. So being very, very harsh by saying right off the bat they didn't have a female superhero.
Came from another time as well, John. You've got to put that into perspective as well. You know, when these creations were taking place, it was to take people's minds off of what was happening in the world, etc. You know, and
inspiring your key demographic,
exactly,
which was young boys. They were reading comics primarily, not girls.
Exactly. So you can say that as well, John. As well, I think they've handled the female characters the best they can, and it's not to say that these characters aren't good. They're fantastic. Some of them are just amazing. They are. You know, you're talking about Wanda Maximoff is probably one of my favourite characters now.
Yeah.
But I had to be introduced to her through the way they did it. You know, not giving her a standalone film where I'd be like, I don't know anything about this character. Am I really that bothered?
She doesn't deserve a standalone film either, Stephen. TV shows what she's getting, and that's really what she deserves. She's not a big enough character. I know probably in comic book terms she is pretty big, but she is not an interesting enough character. I'm sorry, I'm going to be controversial to have her own standalone movie. She's a sort of supplementary character to the main players.
Yeah.
Black Widow couldn't even get a movie for over a decade.
Until she was dead.
Yeah, she's got one now because it's Scarlett Johansson. We've had Captain Marvel. She's a high caliber superhero in the comic books. That's why she got a standalone movie. Gamora, the likes of that, Wasp, they're just not big enough characters to get standalone movies. And that's not Kevin Feige and Marvel Disney's fault. They didn't write the comic books. Mantis, They didn't write these characters, Stephen. It's just the fact that the best characters in the Marvel side of things are male characters. That's not down to Kevin Feige. He can only work with what he has. There was another saying that you could say, and I'm not going to say it because it's bad and we'll not get the channel or the actual video monetised because it's profanity laden. She-Hulk and stuff like that, they're popping in. Stephen, we're getting sidetracked talking about the history of Marvel and what they've done wrong with female characters. They've they've righted the wrong.
Yeah.
Why did I even say wrote?
Well, Letitia,
by introducing all these characters now, so we have a plethora of great female characters like Mantis, Valkyrie, Nebula, Gamora.
Well, John, you're talking
Shuri.
about these characters as well, and just before we go back to it, Letitia Wright did say, I don't think we have to fight for it. Victoria Alonso is very strong about spearheading it alongside Kevin Feige. It's only a matter of time before they do it. That scene in Endgame bugged a lot of people, but I think they bugged a lot of people for the wrong reasons. Now, I thought it was a great lineup the way it was shot. It was fantastic the way it was shot and the way they were working together as well. It's who they were protecting that bothered me more than anything. I know that it really annoyed you as well, John.
He's the main man.
But take that element away from it, and what you've got is you've got a great lineup of superheroes where you have to draw the line somewhere. If you're wanting to go down this route of an all-female film, then you have to do something, and this is the way they did it. I think it was great the way they did it. You know, they didn't make it a big deal. It didn't take me out of the picture, it didn't annoy me that much, apart from the Spider-Man thing. Looking after him like he's their little nephew or something like that, you know. It's Spider-Man, for crying out loud.
God-given abilities.
Yeah, exactly.
Super strength.
But I look at the likes of like Pepper Potts and her development through the whole Infinity Saga. One of the best developed characters in that whole period. From where she started in Iron Man, basically Tony Stark's PA, and where she ended up was fantastic. The way that was just dealt with was amazing, you know. And I don't know about you, John, who your favourite female character is.
Probably Black Widow, Stephen, just because she isn't a traditional superhero. She's a human figure with a great past, which we're going to see explored in the Black Widow movie. And she's just, as I did say, more like Hawkeye. Yeah. Just highly agile, get good martial artist sort of skills. So I'd probably her. Other ones, probably Gamora. I like Gamora. And Zoe Saldana's a great actor, so like that character. I like the fact of rejuvenated that character too, so it's sort of refreshed like Loki. So it's going to be interesting to see where James Gunn takes that character moving on.
As well, John,
she's going to have to rebuild the relationship with Peter Quill.
Valkyrie as well. Valkyrie's an interesting character, and we've not seen enough of her yet. Her introduction in Ragnarok, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was amazing. You know, she had such great screen chemistry with Chris Hemsworth as well.
Infamous horse.
Yeah, and just her being constantly drunk as well.
Yeah,
was amazing. There was obviously a tragedy behind, obviously, the way she was behaving, but I can't wait to see more of her. What I like about the MCU, and you know, Letitia Wright's not been snidey in what she's saying. She's got every right to, you know, say these things, and I think she is right as well, is that the MCU and Kevin Feige should be congratulated in the way they've handled this situation. It's the polar opposite the way Lucasfilm have handled these kind of situations, these forced agendas. We've heard from John Boyega. He saw it clear as day what they were doing with his character and what they were doing with him as an actor.
Yeah,
very superficial
representation.
So, yeah,
with no real rhyme or reason for the actual story. They brought him in, much heralded the character. Could he be a Jedi? Completely discarded him. And the same with Rose Teagle. Stephen, I actually do think it will happen. I think we will see an all-female Avengers movie. Maybe not an Avengers movie, but an all-female ensemble movie. We spoke about it before we came on. They're just setting it up. We've got She-Hulk coming in. We've got Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel's yet to flex her muscles.
John, Captain Marvel 2 is where I think it might come in, because they were talking about a Civil War moment in Captain Marvel. That would be a good opportunity, I think. Yeah,
and Stephen, you've got Florence Pugh's character, Yelena, could be the next Black Widow. You could see her coming in and playing it. You've got Nebula, you've got Valkyrie, you've got Gamora. Hell, we could even get back in time and bring Captain America back, Steve Rogers, and bring Peggy Carter back with him as well. And there you go. You've got Hayley Atwell in there too. Shuri, Okoye. You've got some great characters, female characters. Are setting it up via the TV shows. I think we will see a female ensemble Marvel movie at some point. And I actually looked into it to see if it was possible. They're not just flinging it in for a false sort of ulterior motive sort of side of things. There is precedent for an all-female Marvel setup. We've seen it in comics. A-Force, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was an all-female ensemble piece, just bringing all of these characters together who wouldn't otherwise interact with each other. Bring them together.
John, they have to work as a team. You think it's harder, though, for Kevin Feige and the team to do that in film? Because I think in comic you can change things about, and you don't have to heavily rely on...
it can be an alternate universe, Steve.
Exactly, like different sort of volumes, this alternative volume, or collection of volumes, that could go off in a different direction than what you've been reading and stuff like that. I think there's more freedom in comic books than there is film. When they commit themselves to phases, etc., that's where they really box themselves in as well. But I think we will. I think you're absolutely right, John. I think we will eventually see an all-female led film, but I think it will be within a film. I don't think we're going to get an Avengers event just with female characters in it. I think it will be something like Captain Marvel.
Jesus Christ, Steve.
Black Panther 2, John.
Black Panther 2, yeah. I mean, that's still to happen.
Yeah.
Could be Shuri takes over the mantle as Black Panther, and then we actually strangely have Black Panther being part of a female ensemble movie. That could happen. There's a lot of talk of that even prior to the sad demise of Chadwick Boseman, that she could be the passing of a baton moment, could be her taking over from her. Also, a brother in the actual movies. Stephen, I think you're right. I think we will probably see it happen, but I don't know, much like you says, how we could do it in the actual cinematic universe without it being Jaden. Because we have got these characters all involved in different storylines. The Guardians of the Galaxy thing. Valkyrie's actually ruling over New Asgard. You've got these characters all doing separate things. So how are you going to disconnect them from their standalone stories with all these other male characters, other characters, Rocket Raccoon and stuff like that, and bring them together into an ensemble movie without it being jarring and feeling forced? I don't know how they're going to do it, but if anybody can do it, it will be Kevin Feige and this other Victoria Alonso person. I'm not entirely sure who that is. Presume it's a producer with some sway. Final thing I'd add, antagonists would be important too. I read in A-Force Medusa was involved in some point, so that'd be very cool.
A female villain.
A female villain, Medusa. Can you do better than that? I don't think you can do better than that,
John,
Steve.
I think that would be better as well, because that was one of the things that about I've already forgot the name, Harley Quinn film.
Yeah, the Birds of Prey was about to get into that as well.
The villain, it was just male bashing. The whole, I don't like that.
And that's another key thing, Stephen. You cannot put a male character as the antagonist in this ensemble female movie, because it'll turn off the whole male demographic. You have to handle it very carefully so you're not alienating the whole male demographic. It needs to be promoted very well, and you make it an all-female experience. No males, because it will turn into male bashing. Although, albeit, I've never seen the movie, but apparently Hugh McGregor's character was a misogynistic shit who deserved to get his head kicked in. So if you make him really unlikable in 2D and cardboard cutout as a villain, then it's not so jarring. But I'd want to see all female. Medusa would be my shout.
Yeah, good shout. But we'll move on, John, to our next topic. It's Michael B. Jordan. We're just talking about Black Panther.
Yes.
He played Killmonger, of course, and he feels responsible. He feels responsible for helping Hollywood improve. This is from Screen Rant once more, John, and I'm just going to read a little bit here. Jordan connects his activism to improvements that can be made within Hollywood, according to E! Jordan said in a recent interview that he wants to use his platform to empower future generations to seek further, speak louder, be better. He explains how people see him as one of the industry's latest gatekeepers and wants to use that role as an opportunity to create change in Hollywood. His full statement can be read below. I'm just going to read it, John. It's only a couple of lines. And now it's like, as gatekeepers, the responsibility we have to usher in some kind of change when it comes to producing films and the stories that we're telling, how we're putting on for the culture, giving opportunities to others that we might not have had, holding brands and partners accountable for being progressive. What's your take on this, John? Because we had a little discussion just before we came on air about this. When you look back over maybe the last 50 or 60 years of Hollywood, and we were rhyming off famous black actors, but the one thing that we did say was that there's not enough, and there isn't enough, because you can maybe in that time span maybe about 10
each decade name one specific dominant actor. Sidney Poitier in the 60s, but Richard Pryor.
I do like the fact that it does say in this interview, that he wants to use the platform to empower the future generations. So he's not coming across as if he's the be all and end all of taking this activism forward or anything like that. He is acknowledging the past, the likes of the Denzel Washingtons, etc. Richard Pryor, Sidney Poitier, just to rhyme a few off, and he just wants to carry that torch on. I think he's already there. I don't know about yourself, John, but I'll let you in anyway.
Stephen, I do. I think the man's already done so much for the industry, inspiring young children watching to maybe follow in his footsteps. What he's done with Ryan Coogler, Fruitvale Station, Creed, Black Panther, alongside the likes of his great friend Chadwick Boseman. They've done so much to inspire young generations that they can achieve stardom, they can achieve success as an actor in a big blockbuster movie. It's not something that's just reserved for white people, a specific demographic. It might not just be white people, that you can come from a maybe an impoverished, and I don't want to shoehorn the entire black populace into an impoverished community, because I know that's not the case, but if you come from a minority community where you perhaps not get as much chance at success, opportunity, then you can be something more than that. You can actually be an actor like Michael B. Jordan. So I think he has done a whole lot. But look, it's nice to see the guy isn't resting in his laurels. He's wanting to keep on, and perhaps it's inspired by the death of Chadwick Boseman, a man who was a towering figure in social media, out with the whole acting thing and social justice and fighting for minority communities and being a voice for the black community as well. Maybe since his demise, he's felt a sense of obligation to step into that man's shoes and continue his legacy and try to usher in change in Hollywood, to be a responsible figure, and it just not just to inspire young children watching and young black women and men, but to actually give them a chance physically by doing things like having a production company, which he has.
We'll talk about that.
Influencing them. I mean, we've seen it, Stephen, with I'm blanking on his name just now, which is absolutely shocking, man. But the director, who he makes solely black movies, black stories. Why am I blanking on this guy's name?
Spike Lee?
No, not Spike Lee. The guy who done Us. Why am I blanking on his name?
Peele.
Jordan Peele. He works primarily with black stories and helping black actors come in and have a chance in blockbuster movies. And this is something we've seen, Stephen, from actors like Michael B. Jordan. We've seen it from Margot Robbie as well, for the female side of things, allowing opportunity. If you can actually get in and physically influence things by having a production company who's having a sway in which movies are being made, then he is single-handedly able to allow other people in and maybe to follow in his footsteps. So, yeah, it's very nice to see. And I just feel like it is connected to Boseman. I mean, I know the guy was very close friends with him. Since he's passed, and he's now come out and saying he feels responsible for helping Hollywood improve. I think it seems more than a coincidence. There always
seems to be a burden on every black
Stephen,
actor for every generation, John, that they seem to have that burden on them. And you can actually read within the lines from his quotes here as well and understand why that's the case, can't you?
Stephen, and look, you're absolutely right in what you says about previous generations. Denzels of the 90s, Pryor of the 80s, Sidney Poitier. I'm trying to think of someone from the 70s, and my name, it's technically Sidney Poitier would be the 70s as well.
He carried the can for a long time.
Yeah, he did, and he was almost a solitary black figure in Hollywood, and the man was picking up Oscars in the middle of racial apartheid and division in the United States. So, guy, hugely inspirational. And look, he directed one of my all-time favourite comedy movies with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, Stir Crazy. So, he's a titanic figure for me. And it's nice to see that he's carrying the baton over from Boseman, and not like that's maybe doing him wrong. he was probably doing just as much as Boseman, even when Boseman was here.
I think he was.
So, I mean, I'm doing him wrong there, but it's nice to see he's continuing it, because you need to have figures like that who inspire
and he's just about to move into the director's chair as well, apparently, for Creed 3, so he's moving forward, on his own career, not just talking about, obviously, generations to come. I think the guy's a very forward-thinking, level-headed chap. If you've ever watched him, I know you have, John. He's such a likeable guy as well. He's so grounded, it's unreal. You can see that sort of rubbing off in some of the characters that he does play. What was it, Just Mercy we watched?
Just Mercy was brilliant, Jamie Foxx.
An amazing performance. It was a great cast, John, but obviously he stood out for me, Michael B. Jordan. I just felt, he's roughly about the same age as yourself, isn't he?
Yeah, 31, 32.
For someone that's in his early 30s, such a wise person, isn't he? He's full of wisdom. And John, I'm actually getting a bit sidetracked here. I'll tell you why. I'm on our next topic, right, which we'll move on slightly before I let you in, just to finish off that topic. And they've actually got a screen coming up, and it's Jim Carrey and Alec Baldwin.
It's a
bit off-putting.
Fantastic.
And
here's the deal.
He's doing the gun thing, but
here's the deal. But he's great, man.
But I don't know if you've got anything else.
Just final thing I'd say, Stephen, it's nice to see him perhaps stepping into the director's seat and furthering his career in that aspect behind the camera too, because we have got a whole array of really talented young black directors coming out, the likes of Jordan Peele, Steve McQueen, Stephen Capel Jr., Steve Capel Jr., who done Creed 2. We could obviously Nia DaCosta's another one. She's doing Candyman in 2020. She was actually pushed forward by Jordan Peele for that role, so it's nice to see we're having some diversity behind the camera too. It's we're seeing more representation behind the camera, and that can only be a good thing too for inspiring younger people, because if you've got someone like yourself who's willing to go out and just forgo the traditional sort of, let's just bring the white guy in to be the leading man in the movie, then that's going to help people get their foot in the door into the industry too. So look, I'm not going to be a sort of white knight here and say try to be sort of white-splaining, mansplaining, but I think it's great. I like to see representation. I said it before, we're a very diverse world. It's a melting pot of different cultures, creeds, ethnicities, and that should be represented on the screen. That's the reality of the world.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the world's never going to be utopia or anything like that. But
sadly not.
You'd like to think that at some point, in future years, in generations to come, that this will not have been talked about, because it will just be the norm. But
that's where we're going, Stephen.
You may say I'm a dreamer. Well, I'm not the only one, as the great man said. But we're going to move
John
on.
Was ahead of the curve.
He was, but we're going to move on, John, to actually one of his friends. It's David Bowie. And this is a
Don't say that downstairs, Stephen.
The Stardust trailer. It's a David Bowie biopic is missing one key element.
He said himself he was Bowie.
We already know what the missing key element is, John, but since the smash success of 2018's Bohemian Rhapsody, musical biopics have been continuing to tour to more popular musicians, including Taron Egerton's incredible Elton John and Rocketman, Timothy Chalamet's upcoming, hopefully, fingers crossed, take on Bob Dylan, and Madonna now getting involved in directing her own story. She would. Before we see these high-profile projects take the stage, David Bowie is getting his moment with Stardust. We finally have a trailer for the Bowie biopic, and it's quiet. And it is quiet, John. We obviously can't play it because copyright and stuff like that, but it is on Cinema Blend's website, where I got this article from. We've both watched the trailer, John. It's everything I kind of expected from a trailer, and the thing that is missing is obviously the music. We've talked about this maybe for a good part, maybe a year now, since it came to
the forefront. We're laughing at it.
Yeah,
I can't lie.
John, I feel sorry for the actual makers of this film, because it does look a good film. It looks like they've cast the right chap. I don't know what his name is. Johnny Flynn. Played Mr. Knightley and Emma. He's just got everything going for him. He's got the look, the sound of him as well. He's got the voice down to a T. It's a very hard person to obviously portray as well. Let's not beat around the bush.
Specifically in the Ziggy Stardust era.
Bowie was such a unique man, a unique performer, singer, songwriter as well, musician. But as a person, which I think this Stardust is going to focus on more. as the person, because
they have to.
They have to. Exactly. But what was your take on the trailer, John? I actually did like it, I've got to be honest with you, but there was a bit of me that felt so sorry for the people who have made this film.
Stephen, I'm going to give you a break first and foremost. I'm going to go to myself because I've not waited myself in the whole show and you're getting hammered. So I'll give you a breathing, a bit of breathing room, shall we say. You can do your thing in the chat and stuff like that. Stephen, I thought it was actually good, surprisingly good. I liked the trailer. I liked the look of the acting from Johnny Flynn. I thought he nailed the mannerisms, the tics, the voice, which is very difficult to do because he did have a unique voice. And he sort of nailed the flamboyance of the man's personality too. So I think that's what they need to do in this movie to succeed. It's really chasing it. There's a lot of adversity for this movie's success. And the only way they can really succeed is by narrowly sort of skewing it through the personality of David Bowie, whatever you want to call him, and his rise to stardom. Because it's been slanted through that period where he's just released A Space Oddity. Yeah. And it's his debut album. I think it's Hunky Dory. It's not going to overwhelm the United States. It's that sort of vacuous period between him initially coming out as an act and then reaching superstardom in the States and everywhere with Ziggy Stardust, that flamboyant sort of alter ego character that he created. So that's exactly what they need to do. They need to focus on the drama-driven character side of this movie. I want to see them doing what they've never done with Bohemian Rhapsody, and perhaps not with Starman either. Not Starman, Jesus Christ, Rocketman. I'm Starman out of my mind. That's what they would have called this if it had the music rights. But they never really focused on the, how shall I put it, the debauchery. I mean, they kind of did with Rocketman. We got to see him taking heroin and drinking and snorting coke and stuff like that. Coke, sorry. Snorting coke, sorry. I'll go to Stephen there because he's having a mental breakdown. That's us not getting the show monetized, Stephen. We're screwed, man. But look, I digress.
John, what you said might be true, actually.
Yes, it may be for Elton, to be fair. But they never focused on the debauchery side of the character.
You certainly have.
Yes, I certainly have. Yes, I went down that rabbit hole. Sadly, they didn't do that. Some people would have enjoyed it. I personally wouldn't. That's not my cup of tea, but hey-ho. That's what they should have done, Stephen, with the characters, though. And that's what I want to see with David Bowie in this movie. I want them to focus on the darker recesses of the character, of the personality. And not focus on the music because they don't have the rights.
No.
But Stephen, the final thing I'll say before I let you back in,
I don't know if I want back
in, is I'm slightly disappointed by Bowie's son, Duncan Jones. I'm finding this guy to be a bit of a shithead now. Yeah. I've pretty much let the rabbit out of the bag, Stephen, with the swear now, so I could call him exactly what I want to call him. We're not getting this monetised anyway because of that slip of the tongue.
John,
that was like one
of
those videos,
YouTube have been behaving lately anyway.
We're screwed anyway. It's like one of those videos, Stephen, with you've got the weather presenter and they let slip with a word. You try so hard to not have those mental breaks in shows like this, but it happened. Yeah. And I'm screwed. But I don't like this guy's attitude. No. He's sort of acting like a Christopher Tolkien figure. He's just deliberately obstructing them. And I think this movie had great potential if they had access to the music. I think it could have been pretty damn good. Because I do like, there you go, I'm flinging slang in there as well. Having a merman. I do like the look of Johnny Flynn. Yeah. So, John, it's not going to succeed though.
No, it won't. No, and I've not got really much more to add other than I will watch the film because I'm interested.
You want to speak about Rocketman and what it didn't have, Stephen?
No, it probably too much. But I think
brilliant, man.
I will watch this purely on the basis I'm interested in David Bowie anyway. Out with his music, I watch this, and you can tell that this is where the road they've had to go down. Sometimes, John, that can really work for a film, you know, if it goes down the sort of dramatical route. Possibly not for a musical biopic, but it doesn't actually proclaim itself to be a musical biopic. It's a biopic about the chap himself. But I think sorry, John?
I'm thinking about my cousin now.
All right,
you know who I'm talking about, don't you?
No.
Oh, you should. He famously spotted out with some words like that.
All right, okay.
Back in the day. It's just come into my mind now, and I'm going to be screwed for the rest of the show.
That's okay. But just before we move on, because our other two, I know you're talking about are on the same sort of level as what we've just been talking about, John. But on Duncan Jones, my view on him is that unless he's holding out for some big production on Bowie, that would have happened, John, that would already happened if it was going to happen, if he was looking for a Peter Jackson to come in or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think you're going to get that. I don't know what his game is, but it could be like Tolkien's son. You're absolutely right. Overprotective, overprotective of the legacy and stuff like that, and very afraid to sort of change things, if you like, and change the sort of image of the legend that is David Bowie. But I watch it just pure out of interest, John. I don't think it's going to be a success.
This is a streaming service movie, isn't it, Steve?
Sorry?
This is a streaming service movie, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
This is not going
it is, John. And I've watched some Beatles ones, that obviously weren't approved by Apple or anything like that. Apple Records, that is, not Apple. The ones that do MacBooks and stuff like that. Ones that were set in Hamburg and stuff like that, and they couldn't get the music for it, and they had to use the incidental sort of rock and roll music, the standard stuff that
that's what they're going to have to do in this,
and it takes you out of it. It really does, because I didn't get into the film expecting to hear all those early records from the Beatles or the Quarrymen or whatever, but if it's not got that, then it's missing part of the story for me, you know, because that is what made David Bowie what he was, his music, but he is an interesting guy. I'll probably watch it and then I'll maybe give my views on it. I think I'll get something out of it, but I don't know what.
Stephen, final thing I'll add, director Gabriel Range, not a huge name by any means. He's made solid average movies throughout his career, not made many, so it's a very, how shall I put it, inexperienced cast, decent crew, or inexperienced crew I should say, decent enough cast. I don't expect this movie to be a success, sadly.
John, here's one I think will succeed because of the subject matter, and this is our next topic. It's coming in from Empire. It's Kenya Barris is directing a Richard Pryor biopic. Now we'll talk about casting in a moment. There has been attempts to make a film about the life of the legendary comedian Richard Pryor in the past, with the likes of Eddie Murphy and Bill Condon attached in the past. Nothing has come together, but Blackish creator Kenya Barris is looking to change that, agreeing to write and direct a yet to be titled biopic of his life and times. MGM has stepped up to buy the rights to the film, which will be Barris' feature directorial debut. Over the course of his career, Pryor appeared in more than 50 movies, headlined the series The Richard Pryor Show, A Pryor's Place, and wrote for TV shows including Sanford and Son. Among his numerous accolades, Pryor was the first ever recipient of the annual Mark Twain Humour Prize. I didn't know that, and I think this was, is this Barris saying this in a statement? Yeah. The way Pryor did what he did with the truth and specificity, that was somehow self-aware and self-deprecating, and said with an unmatched level of vulnerability. That's a lot of big words on there. That was the power and impact of his work, Barris says in a statement there. Pryor had a voice that was distinctly his, and in many ways comedy since then has been derivative of what he created. To me, this is a film about the voice, the journey that shaped it, and what it took it to come to be. Now, John, you mentioned a couple of names there. Not Richard Pryor, is obviously who's going to play him. Eddie Murphy and Bill Condon. Don't know too much about Bill Condon. A little bit yourself, John. Eddie Murphy.
Bill Condon.
As much as I love Eddie Murphy, I don't want to see him playing Richard Pryor. He actually appeared in a film, Harlem Nights, I think it was called, with Richard Pryor. I think the two of them were close enough to obviously have a friendship, but it's going to take someone, I think, unknown. I think it's going to be someone that we're probably not thinking about to play this, because I think that's the only way it's going to work, because Eddie Murphy's too big a character. He's too well known that you'll just find yourself watching Eddie Murphy rather than watching Richard Pryor, if that makes any sense. And I think Kenya Barris is right. He had such a distinctive movement about him, his voice, look, humour, just the screen presence as well. You talked about some of the films, John, when we were talking about Sidney Poitier earlier. It just had this unique sort of presence about him on screen. I don't know how the biopic will play out, whether or not it will be more about his personal life like they're having to do with the Bowie thing. I think we might see some behind the scenes stuff as well, because I'm pretty sure Richard Pryor's got so many interesting stories out there that they could put to film anyway. Some may be controversial. He's a controversial chap.
That's what made him great, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. His relationship with Gene Wilder as well. I was about to say Richard Gere there. I don't know why.
Steve, nothing you can possibly say is ever going to outshine what I've done tonight, so don't worry about it.
No.
You're good.
Richard Gere. Willy Wonka. What's your view on this, John? Do you think there's anyone out there that can actually pull this off? That's known?
No, Stephen, I don't think there's anyone with the visual look of Richard Pryor to be able to pull it off. I don't know how they're going to cast it, really. I think what you've said is probably the best way. Perhaps an up-and-coming actor who's similar aesthetically to Pryor and has the, well, it's going to be a 1 in a million shot, really, because they're going to have the presence of Pryor, the charisma of him, the humour, everything. He was such a unique guy. He was like Gene Wilder too. He was the two, that dynamic duo, totally unique personalities, totally unique looks. I don't know how you can capture that in a movie. I think that's probably why it's fell through time and again, because there is no one in the industry just now working as a working actor who can play that guy. It's impossible. So but Stephen, you say that, I mean, look at that Stardust movie. You'd think there's no one could possibly play David Bowie.
No.
And you'd think there was no one could possibly play Elton John, and Taron Egerton done it, and you'd think there was no one could possibly play Freddie Mercury, and there you go, Rami Malek done it. So I'm sure there's always somebody out there who can step into the shoes and give it a bash. He had such a rich life, and obviously the tragedy as well. I think he had multiple sclerosis or something like that. That's a hard word to say. Sclerosis at the end of his life, so there's that tragic element too. It's true, it's a very hard word to say, Stephen.
I was just having flashbacks
sclerosis. I'm having flashbacks to that moment when I was in the room over in my old house and my cousin hut out randomly with that word out of nowhere, and it shook the whole room.
Oh wow.
It's like the moment everyone remembers when Kennedy died, if they were alive, where they were. I remember where I was, what I was doing that moment he says that word. That's really brilliant. That's why I'm getting PTSD. It's slipping in. But Stephen, he's got such a rich life, Pryor, and this is if this Kenya Barris guy, and look, I've looked at his filmography too. He's worked on the likes of Coming to America. He's done the screenplay for that. That's still to come out, so we don't know how good that is yet. That'll be perhaps a precursor to this. Shaft from 2019 was shit. Let's be honest, it wasn't great.
It went to Netflix, didn't it?
Yeah, it went straight to Netflix. It wasn't a great movie. So he's got a mixed filmography. Blackish I've not seen, so that's what they seem to be working off of primarily. But this guy is stepping in, and hats off to him. He's wanted to take the bull by the horns and make this movie happen. But if he does do it, he's definitely got, if it can be green lit and the script is also there, then he's definitely got a lot to work with, an open sandbox. The guy's stand-up career, his acting career, he's just his vivacious personality anyway. The tragic element at the end, the relationship with Gene Wilder, vivacious. I love
I just take it through the show.
And obviously his friendship with Gene Wilder. So it's a very interesting concept. Hopefully it does work out. And then that guy you mentioned, Stephen Bill Condon, he's done some work too on like some Beauty and the Beast and Dreamgirls and a few other movies.
I probably do know him, John. The name rings a bell. I just can't think off the top of my head now. The only reason I'm laughing is because we're getting into the last topic here, and I'm just reading the headline. It's Crock of Gold. Now I get through it. Now I'm not going to.
I'm not saying that, thankfully, so I'm all good.
New trailer and poster for the Shane MacGowan documentary. John, we watched this. It's a Johnny Depp film, isn't it? But it's actually Julian Temple. I think Johnny Depp's producing it or something. He's putting his name.
Was he actually doing
attached
Johnny
to it.
Depp?
But Shane MacGowan is certainly the sort of personality that would make a compelling documentary subject. Now, thanks to prolific filmmaker Julian Temple, we have Crock of Gold, a few rounds with Shane MacGowan.
You know what, he'd admit that, aren't
we
Stephen?
watched that's a bit like Peter Cushing, combining interviews, previously unseen archive footage and specially commissioned animations, which I thought were pretty cool, with an impressive soundtrack. The documentary details Shane's explosive existence from his early days growing up in Ireland to time spent on the mean streets of London and embracing the punk scene to form the Pogues. We discover MacGowan's passions, humour and deep knowledge of music history, spirituality and, I can't even say that, popular culture. Now, John, we watched this. Now, I'm trying to work out,
fantastic poster too, Steve.
Johnny Depp presents. So this is like that time I watched that Jet Li film Hero. It was Quentin Tarantino, and I went, oh, what? It was actually just Quentin Tarantino presenting. I actually don't know what that means. I think he's just
he's putting his name there.
Yeah, he's kind of, what do you call that when they kind
Wright.
of, they kind of put a stamp and mark on it as if this is, a good, they're saying it's a good film. But I think that's what Johnny Depp, to be fair, is I don't want to say he's a established musician or anything like that, but he loves his music. He always has. He's been in his own bands. He plays his own musical instruments as well. And I can imagine him being a fan of the Popes as well, and Shane MacGowan. I think that's where Crock of Gold has come from. I think it's an actual album name, possibly from his Popes days, when he was kicked out the Pogues. I don't know if they'll get into that. But Julian Temple, I'm not really sure about, John, but he directed The Filth and The Fury, apparently. But we watched the trailer. What was your views on it?
Stephen, I like the look of it. I like the title as well, Crock of Gold. It's a great title. And Crock of Gold is fantastic. That's like a fantastic beast moment again there. I always do it. It's always me. And this is going to be looked at for years to come, I have to tell you. I'll be looking fondly back to this moment.
Just remember the screen grab.
Oh, you'll never forget that headline, Stephen, in the actual thumbnail. So we'll just pick that out. It's like an Avengers poster. So just be drawn to that, man. There's been so many moments, guys. You'll never know. Audio moments. We've got them archived where it's just been hilarity, full on breakdowns mentally, trying to end shows and stuff like that. That were airbrushed out of history.
We weren't always this good.
Yeah, we was this good. Wow. You can imagine how bad we were prior to this. This is us good now. So how bad were we a year and 2 years ago? Wow. But Stephen, I think it does look very good. And he is a very interesting guy. I used the word vivacious to describe Richard Pryor. This guy's vivacious on another level. I don't even know what vivacious means. I need to search it up. I hope it works. Vivacious. He's very, I think that's to do with a woman of the night. You know that? I'm actually going to search it up when I let you back in. But he's a very interesting guy, a colourful guy. He's into everything, into drugs. He was into drink. I'm choosing my words very carefully here. And he was
allegedly in there.
And he was explosive. Oh no, he was definitely into drugs, man. The guy.
Allegedly.
He knows he was. Everyone knows he was. Allegedly. He doesn't even care. And so, perfect life to really go over and document, really, in a documentary setting. I don't know who's doing it in terms of actual directing. Julian Temple, he actually says a terrific filmmaker.
Yeah, Filth and Fury.
Yeah, never heard of it, Stephen, I can't lie.
I just read it off the poster.
But man, I love this guy. I love his music. I love his politics, everything, man. He's a great guy. And if Johnny Depp's putting his name towards it, that just solidifies
very much like
my love of Johnny.
David Bowie and Richard Pryor. We've got another interesting subject who's lived a life
vivacious
times 100. This guy, I've seen some sort of documentaries over the years on Shane MacGowan. Nothing like sort of in a film style, more of a sort of a BBC style documentary type thing where it follows him about, interviews him in a pub kind of thing. This looks quality to me. The fact that they've got the soundtrack as well always helps, you know. Some of the music in there is fantastic. This guy is a living legend as a poet. You know, away from all the sort of drugs and stuff like that and the drink, the image that people always associate him with. A fantastic songwriter as well. Writes from the heart. Never forgets his roots either. And you know, he's left a great legacy behind as well.
And involved in one of the greatest Christmas songs of all time, if not the greatest.
So possibly, arguably,
Stephen, look, it's got that raw punk vibe too. You watch it and it just feels like the 80s. It feels like that punk scene, and it looks brilliant, man. I can't wait to watch it. I like a good documentary. I've watched it quite a lot. Living in a Material World, the George Harrison one. Was that Scorsese?
It was, yeah.
Obviously, Shine a Light, the Rolling Stones one.
Yeah, it was a good one, yeah.
Scorsese
that
again.
Was intersliced with some concert footage.
So we've had some brilliant. Senna was another one. We've had some brilliant documentaries following some really interesting characters, and this guy's certainly up there. He's a very interesting character. Vivacious, incidentally, does work. It means attractively lively and animated. And an example is a vivacious folk dance. So a vivacious punk scene with this guy just works. It does work. So I was right. I'll take that. I'll claim that. It's the one thing I've got right tonight. And I'm going to end the show on that note, Steve, because I'm done, man. I think we should end this show.
I think we're done 20 minutes ago.
End it before I say anything else. We did get there. Stephen, I don't know how we got there, because after I says that word, I was broken mentally. I can't lie.
I'm going to be watching this in playback.
That ended me, Stephen, I have to tell you. How I get through that in a live action. Or not a live action, it was live action. A live setting is beyond me, man. But I composed myself. I've been watching lots of Gary Neville movies over the lockdown and stuff like that. Videos, not movies. Videos. And he spoke about composing yourself. Composing yourself in live settings. So yeah, I've been learning off of Gary. I didn't like Gary as a player. Gary. But I like him as a guy now. But look, I digress. Let's end the show. I'm talking shite. It was very aggressive, wasn't it? What is your thoughts on Letitia Wright saying that we could perhaps have an all-female Avengers movie in the future? Is that something you want to see? Or are you completely against it? Are you a misogynist? Let's out ourselves in the chat below if you're a misogynistic shit. What do you make about Michael B. Jordan feeling responsible for helping Hollywood improve representation and stuff like that? What do you make about the Stardust movie, the trailer? Is it something you're excited about? Do you think Johnny Flynn is good enough to overcome the lack of music, the lack of rights of Bowie's back catalogue in a sense? What do you make about the Kenya Barris topic, him potentially directing and writing a Richard Pryor biopic? And finally, what do you make about Crock of Gold, the new trailer and documentary following the escapades of Shane MacGowan? If you've got anything to say about any of the topics, you can comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future. And if you do, look, that's what you'll get. You'll get more content like this. I'll be on my own tomorrow. I'll not be putting any topics in like that. I can tell you it'll be safe as hell. And come and join me for that. We'll see you. More car crash television. But look, guys, I'm done, man. As ever. Bye-bye.